Maybe. Yeah. I mean, I felt like you were attacking him, but I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Mm-mm-mm. Hey, hey, welcome to the writer's room.
What's up,
Oh,
everyone?
man, that's right. So where did we leave off last week?
Well,
We're working on harlots.
we're working on harlots. First of all, you'll notice that Ed isn't here tonight. Ed wasn't feeling well, had to go. So we hope Ed does well and hope to see him back next week. Uh, this week, so last week we basically unpackaged the whole thing, right? The premise and what it was that we were possibly going to do with it, and then over the course of the week, just to kind of catch everybody up for what we had talked about off to the side, we had talked about possibly having the car be the narrator. Move that way just a little bit, Terry. Hey, my guy. So that doesn't mean that doesn't mean that it's right. We're just throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what works for right now. But we we nailed down the idea of the basic characters. Let's go ahead. Actually, let's go ahead and bring up. Oh, you know what? Before we started, I didn't even bring up any of the pages. I need to bring up the Celtics in the Google Doc still.
Okay.
That's all right.
Yeah,
Talk for a minute.
the idea about making the car the narrator
Yeah.
and then revealing that later on, is could be fun. It could be
Yeah.
a fun way to tell the story. I think I likened it to, as a kid, I liked Dukes of Hazzard, and
Yes.
Waylon Jennings would kind of catch you up to speed with a little narration.
Right.
So we could have that, and it could be maybe we think that it's the love interest back at the home,
Right.
and then we reveal that really that narrator is the car,
That,
and we could wrap it all up in a nice little bow, and at the end during our credits have just like a hangover type of photo
yes.
montage of everything this car has seen.
Yes. Absolutely.
That was just one of the many stories that the car has seen.
100%. And the fun part of that is that throughout the course of the film and script, the jokes that are told should make sense in a completely different way at the end once it's revealed.
Yeah,
Assuming again that we go down that path.
right.
So that's something to consider. I'm gonna see if I can get this up real quick. Yeah, that's not too bad. I actually lined this up pretty well. So I've got the Google Doc up. Uh, do you have your Google Doc up by chance?
No.
Okay, go ahead and bring yours up. So, the protagonist is going to be our former porn star, conservative roomie, nursing home paramour, which we get into that later. Yeah. So anyway, has the nursing home paramour, I believe. And then the antagonist would be the nursing home staff. Maybe scene, not too distant past, cross country, perhaps it's called it a Deus Ex Machina. Narrative past, present, future. Judy Jones, porn star. Grace is going to be Judy's friend. Judy is who we're going to be focusing on primarily today. And then we worked on a few log lines, and all of that is on the doc. So for today, I suppose we need to move down the Google Doc a little bit to the next page, and I don't know if that's the right way you do it. That's the way I'm doing it. Do a nice header of Judy Jones. Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. There you go.
Judy Jones.
And we'll take that back to here. Whoops. Go back down. All right. There we go. Judy Jones. Let's talk about Judy Jones. So Judy Jones is what? And when you first came up with this idea,
Mm-hmm.
who was Judy Jones to you?
I thought she was just a lady living in her twilight years and out in the desert in Arizona somewhere in some type of senior living facility. Wouldn't necessarily say like a full-on nursing home, but maybe some type of assisted living, or even a 55 and over type of place.
55 plus community. Okay.
But I kind of think with the assisted living, we would be able to have like a mix of, they still have some kind of guardianship or structure, but
Right.
they're somewhat independent. I mean, they can. I think that some of these assisted living, sometimes people can just they may have cars that can hop in and take off.
Sure. They just have somebody who drops off their pills, somebody who makes sure their breakfast is there, somebody that makes sure that they're up if nobody's answered a call, make sure if they're just kind of like glorified. Well, I don't want to say that. I am about to say something I'm going to regret, and I'm not going to say it. I'm sure that what they do is super valuable and super important, and I'm sure that they're super duper well trained as well.
Yep.
But I'm sure there's also levels of assisted living places from super severe all the way down to, I don't know, they get around on their own.
Yep. Yeah. And I would imagine that within some of these places, communities, that there are some people who need more assistance than others. It's just kind of a stopgap for, if they don't have somebody that's maybe following them 24/7, but just keeping tabs and keeping them.
Right. Okay.
So I kind of thought that Our Lady would at least be independent enough that she can get around and maneuver and break out.
This Judy now. Okay. So assisted living. She's in her twilight years, so we're going to call that what? 70 or 60? What do you want to call that? Because twilight doesn't sound like 60s.
No, I would say late. I would say mid to late 70s, maybe mid 70s on up.
Mid to late 70s, perfect.
And I think that probably varies, from person to person depending on how healthy they are. But I mean, I would say mid 70s, so she's slowing down, but still active.
Right. She's acquiesced and gone onto this thing. She's okay, yeah. Now, okay, I guess Well, let's finish talking about her now before we move on to anything else. Or maybe we should start some subcategories for now, then, so that we have kind of little blocks as we come up with ideas that we can start paring down what her personality is and some of the intricacies of what makes Judy Judy, right?
Right.
So let's make a little subcategory here. I'm moving your tab down, sorry. Call it just Judy then. And then we'll do another one called Judy. Well, we want to like who is, what does she represent? I mean, her life is one thing where she hung out and stuff like that, but we'll just call it Judy's personality.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we'll leave it at that for now. So Judy now, twilight years, senior living facility, whatever that ends up looking like. But it needs to be someplace, I'm assuming, that is kind of like, we're getting off track a little bit, but I assume that it's someplace that's going to be like like everybody has a window, kind of like a hotel, where all the hallways are down the middle. Let me move this over here. All the hallways are down the middle, and you know what I'm saying? Because they need to be able to, quote, escape at some point with this car. So anyway, what else do we need to know about Judy now? Surviving children?
You know, I had pictured her as someone who never married and had kids.
Never married. So what would that be called? Like a spinster?
Yeah, I don't know.
Isn't that what it is? Spinster. A spinster, wasn't that like an old term for a gal who never married?
I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe I can get canceled for that now. Should I erase spinster? I don't know what's appropriate anymore.
It's in a dictionary. An unmarried woman, typically an older woman beyond the usual age for marriage.
Okay, well there we go.
It's the name of a 2019 comedy movie that got 82% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, spinster.
So what's next? What else do we want to know about her?
I think that she's fairly independent still, and that's kind of part of her personality, what she kind of thinks of as her image.
Right. Okay. So super independent. You're all right, babe. Yeah, remember it's only you watching, so we're good. I just fly. So, that was my wife to all the viewers out there. What else? So within super independent, why don't we describe that a little bit?
And I would say even maybe to a fault that she, maybe the aging part and not always being in control is something that bothers her.
So she can't acknowledge her limitations. Is that fair?
Mm-hmm.
She can do everything on your own. She doesn't need your help. She can figure it out. She can, right?
Yeah.
Is that kind of where you're going with that?
That's where I'm going with it.
Okay, cool. And that sets up a lot of instances down later in the storyline where that comes into play, obviously. And then, what was the other? Grace, right?
Grace, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I want her to be the opposite of a lot of these things.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Can acknowledge her limitations. What else do we need to know about her independence? Or maybe that is all we need to know for now. How many kids she have? Oh, I'm sorry. We already talked about kids. Does she have sisters? Does she have anybody that she keeps in contact with?
I think so. I mean, I know we had discussed like maybe a grandchild, but I was thinking maybe a nephew. So possibly she's got a sibling that maybe is still with us or maybe isn't, but she's got, maybe it's just the nephew is her
Like
only
a
baby.
grandnephew or something.
Yeah, like a grandnephew.
And maybe that's the only surviving relative.
Yeah.
I like that. What else? Grandnephew's the only surviving relative. All right, well, let's come back to that. Judy then. Former porn star. What time frame are we making her a porn star in?
Well,
let's just call it for now an age frame. Let's just say from her early 20s to mid 30s.
yeah, that would work.
That way we can plop it wherever we want and just count backwards.
And we don't know, we kind of discussed would we make this a period piece where maybe we're telling the story in the 80s, so this would be something that she went through in the 40s, or do we just want to make it present day and just the fact that she was in adult films and it's not a well known amongst her peers.
Okay, so what do we want to say about that? How do you want to convey that?
That really nobody really knows this about her past. I guess that would be Judy now. But,
so what?
Yeah.
So obviously, well, I say obviously, possibly, she gained some kind of stature to take herself so seriously later in life and be so independent and spinstery and all of that. She had to have been able to make, no matter what era she was in, she had to have been able to make her way through somewhat successfully to navigate it as a single woman during those times.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and keeping in mind, of course, that back then things were far less known, which is why placing this, I don't know, in the 80s or something like that might make a lot of sense, because the internet wasn't around. You didn't just have access to stuff. Knowing somebody like her would be an oddity, a rarity.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Yep.
Okay, so she was a former porn star from the early 20s to mid 30s. What else? Where was she born?
I don't know. Maybe she was born in Kansas and took off for the bright lights of Hollywood.
Well, if we're going to do that, do we just put her in Indiana?
We could do that. Yeah. Born in Indiana. Born in a small town like
what?
Some little town in Indiana. Jasper. There you go. Where my brother-in-law lives.
There you go. What else? Born in Jasper, Indiana.
I want to say, I would like to say maybe that she has a sibling that has passed on since, but that maybe her sibling, maybe she had to take care of her sister, like a younger sister. Maybe parents passed away or
when they were little.
Rough upbringing, and maybe as a teenager she branched out and started working 3 jobs and finishing school and taking care of a younger sibling or something.
And then when she met somebody and promised her the bright lights and all of that, she just wanted out of town. So the second her little sister was old enough, she
bounced.
She bounced. Okay. And younger sister who died whenever. can figure that out. Oops. What else did we say?
Maybe that she helped raise her sister as like a teen. Or raised her. Not helped with it. Maybe she was
her after.
Maybe the home life was rough and.
Oh, maybe one of those deals where she just got out of Dodge and
brought the kid with her.
And rough household. Drunk dad. That's always an easy one. Mom. Suicide. Okay. Left as soon as sis graduated high school. Maybe even sooner. Maybe she's selfish and she left at 19 or something, and little sister just continued to sit there and languish or whatever. Then when she died later on, she kind of carries some of that with her, maybe.
Yeah.
Then she had a kid who had her great nephew. Great grandnephew, or however that works. Yeah. Okay. All right. What else?
I kind of see her, when she gets, maybe even while she's a performer, starting a career somewhere. Maybe she's works in someplace where she kind of moves up into management, like moves her. One of those things where she maybe dominated in a job that was mostly male. Maybe she had to deal with a lot of dickheads.
Okay. So, what would that early job be then? Let's get some ideas.
Maybe for the phone company, or something that might have been a big employer at one time, that maybe mostly employed women.
Stewardess.
Stewardess. Yeah, maybe she moved on to upper management of the airline or whatever from that.
Right. But that would have been after her porn career?
Yeah, or maybe concurrently. Maybe it's something that she shifted from. Maybe she was working both, and then made that shift out of entertainment to upper management of whatever.
Okay, so so the early job would be more like, so this would be later jobs.
Well, I mean, the early job, she could have worked her way up from that.
Well, we want to track like what she worked before she got into porn, and then after porn, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, it could be concurrently. She could have got a job as one of the switchboard operators at the phone company.
While doing
that
porn.
Could have been her day job as she was making the films.
Expressing herself.
And then eventually that person who went from, a switchboard operator moved on to, run the whole, that region or something.
So that's maybe where the story starts, is the idea that she was this former executive for some phone company and had all this money and put herself up in this thing at 62 because she was fucking tired of everything and has lived there ever since. And she just runs around like she owns the place and is all hoity-toity and all this other stuff.
Yep, it could be.
And like her success was the mask for her earlier self. So maybe she wasn't in porn for that long. Maybe she was just in porn from like her early 20s.
Yeah. But whatever it is, she had to have been some kind of pioneer. I mean, there's something that she accomplished or did in that time that she's now being honored.
Something that is impetus for award. Cool. And what do you think she was the pioneer of? Because how far back we go is going to determine how, whatever, right?
Yep.
Like nobody's going to believe the first threesome was done in 86.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it could be the first, interracial scene or something. Who knows?
Okay. What else? What would be another first? The hard thing is, since we don't know the exact era, we don't know. But whatever era it is, I mean, we're figuring this is maybe a slight period piece or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Not so distant past, I think we referred to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think?
And really with movies, we don't need to be topical so that the setting could really be, I mean, unless that is a big factor of the film is that period, then, we can make it kind of an ambiguous time. If there's no topical.
Right. Well, that's true.
Things that are timeless that'll last no matter if you watch the movie now, 10 years ago or 10 years from now, it's still the same story.
Right. That's true. But, cars and stuff.
Yeah.
So, if everybody has a 2021 car, it's going to be hard to pull off that it was somebody from the 50s. Because I think she was born in like the 30s.
But the car, and in this case, if they do use a car for their road trip, it could be an old classic car, like we said, that maybe has seen a lot of different stories, and this is just one of them that it's telling.
Right. They steal the little bus that the community uses to scoop people around. Right. Yeah, because the bus could be whatever, the car that chases them could be whatever, and most of the things that happens here and yonder can be kind of blurred out or nondescript. I kind of think of, have you ever seen, it's a Guy Ritchie movie, Snatch. No, not Snatch. Yeah. Not Snatch. Sorry.
Okay.
The one where they play chess. Revolver.
Revolver?
Yes.
Okay.
In Revolver, they only had 4 cars to shoot the whole movie with, and they're the same 4 cars over and over again.
Oh, okay.
So the idea of having car that, here, like you said, kind of that timeless looking car, and that timeless looking vehicle that they take, and that timeless looking pursuit vehicle, and then everything around them, none of that has to be descript whatsoever. It can just, it doesn't have to, it hardly exist.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the world we make is just whatever we make it. Whatever we show, it could just be.
Yep.
That.
Absolutely. Now we're going to do a show first. I'm going to need you to type for a second because I've got to run to the bathroom real quick.
Yeah.
I'm so embarrassed.
It's okay. I'll wait till you come back and then I'll go.
If you can think of some of the stuff that we're working on in here, that'd be great. I'll be right back.
Yep. Later jobs. Mhm. Telemarketer. Physician. Homeopathic healer.
that for some captivating television?
That was exciting. Well, welcome back.
Oh my gosh, I am sore.
Your arm?
No.
Oh,
No. Not my arm. Not my arm at all. All right. First girl guy film. Okay, that could be like an older one.
yeah. You check this out. I'll be right back.
Yeah. What would be some significant stuff that people might do in that field? Let's get her first jobs. What are some other jobs that she might have done to help support the family? So the mom's died, the dad's drunk, she's working for the family. Wait a minute, is this Shameless?
There you go.
Are we just
No,
creating Shameless?
I kind of even see her as someone who maybe pulled her sister completely out of the house.
With her?
And with her, went out on her own at like 16, got an apartment, managed to go to school, work, and take care of a kid. Like a super young woman.
Right. Huh. Okay.
Just an idea.
So where do we put that at? You can take over the cursor if you want to drop it in there someplace.
Okay.
Sister got an apartment. Okay. All right.
So like, somebody like this would probably be able to, a smart enough person, maybe she was able to finagle something where it's an apartment above the
Where she
restaurant that she worked at,
Right.
and was able to get her sister to school, and then she went to school, picked her sister up, brought her back home, worked at the restaurant, went upstairs,
Right.
that kind of a.
Now, for her to do that at such a young age, at any time, is going to be rough. At what time would this be? You see what I'm saying? So, like, if this happened in, like, the 60s or 70s, maybe I can see that happening.
Yeah.
But then we run into the problem again where we put her in the 60s and 70s doing porn, which
Right.
means that it's today time, which means that the thing that she has to be a pioneer of has to be just absurd and obscene. Because by the time that rolled around, lots of
Right.
stuff was happening. So
Sure. Okay.
you see what I mean? I mean, I'm
I
just...
do. Yeah. Although, let's see. Let's just say, yeah. But even for the sake of argument, it's 2020. But if this took place in if this took place in 2000, and
That'd put it back in the 40s.
Yeah, let's say she's 80 years old,
Right.
and did this when she was 20.
Right.
That would put us in that time frame,
30.
and it wouldn't have to be wouldn't even have to be a period piece, because 2000 and 2020 really doesn't look a whole lot different.
And 2,000 cars are super easy to get.
Yeah.
So that's an easy thing to replicate.
Mm-hmm.
Plenty of 2000 era buildings are all over the place, right? Because we're in the 2000s.
Yeah.
So,
And those are thoughts. I mean, I'm not opposed to the 80s either, because I thought that would be fun. I mean, that's kind of when we grew up.
Sure.
70s and 80s, so it might be fun to tell a story from the 80s.
And the 80s still has that kind of Jesse James wildness to it. Everything wasn't super connected like it is right now. There was still massive gaps of the country that just people didn't even really understand anything about, and you know what I'm saying? I mean, it was just like the Blues Brothers came out in what, like 80 or 81 or 78
right.
or something like that. That era was still super simple. I mean, they were talking about skamods. So having it somewhere in that zone ends up being a super sweet spot, but that puts their porn back into the 20s.
Right. Yeah.
And in the 80s, if they were getting some kind of award, maybe it meant something to her and she went to do it. And like I said, maybe it's just happening at some airport motel conference room.
Right. Yeah, because I'm looking at the AVN Awards, on Wikipedia, and it looks like it started in 1984.
Okay.
So I would imagine that those first few things were probably like in the, conference room,
Sure.
next to the airport kind of thing.
And if we had it in 81 or 82, we could make it the whatever we feel like calling it awards, because the AVNs don't even exist yet.
Yeah, yeah.
So it could be like some loose precursor to that. Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So possibly when she left home with her sister and got an apartment, finished school, did all of that stuff, maybe she ends up getting put to work just to manage the household, period, because of the old man, and then they get out as quickly as they can, and she gets the apartment and all of that stuff.
Right.
Okay. So maybe she finishes high school, and then they bolt town, and she becomes her mom, because they don't track that shit back then.
Right.
Or whatever, right? Okay, cool. An apartment for a school, raising sister. And then, so the sister obviously had a family and had all of that stuff in order to have the grandnephew, right?
Yeah.
So the sister had a kid who had a kid at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
So I make a great grandnephew.
Yeah.
Who would be the kid who possibly researched her?
Who finds out this about her past, and maybe her name. Maybe she had a stage name in this, and Judy Jones is, maybe that Judy Jones is her stage name, and she goes by something else now, or vice versa. But
yeah, maybe her stage name is Judy Jones. Maybe her real name is Judy Jones, and her stage name was, Veronica Swallows.
There you go.
But if it was like back in the 30s or the 20s or something, then maybe her name would be something more kind of mysterious, something that felt like it traveled in on one of those sideshow caravans, like the Temptress, or you know what I mean? Something that has a certain seductive eloquence to it. What would be some cool names for her? What would be some cool? We don't need to decide what her name is, but what's her nickname going to be?
Her nickname?
Well, a porn name.
Yeah.
We'll call it possible porn names. Oops. God darn it. There we go. So what would be some cool porn names that we could throw at our good girl Judy? Well, first of all, let's just say Judy Jones.
Yeah.
That could just end up being the name. What would be some more stuff?
There's a lot of Jones and Margarets and
Sorry?
Bettys. I'm just looking at old name, most common female names in the United States back in the 30s, like Helen, Joan, Betty.
But we're trying to think of something exotic for a stage name for her movie name.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Something, you know what I mean, with a little pizzazz. Or maybe not. Maybe we just go with plain old porn names too, but you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Porn people definitely have their own naming convention, and we should follow some kind of early version of that. Okay. So what are your thoughts?
Oh yeah, I'm looking at like earthy, boho, crunchy, plant-inspired based baby names.
Okay. Give us a couple crunchy plant-inspired baby names real quick.
Aurora, Azalea, Aurelia, Dahlia.
Dahlia. Ooh, Dahlia.
That's a good one. Dahlia, yeah, that's a.
Okay.
Lorelei.
Huh.
Dahlia is a good one.
Dahlia's a really good name. So let's just, what is that? Dahlia?
Dahlia.
And then what was the other one that you just said?
Lorelei.
How you spell that?
Lorelei.
Lorelei. Yeah. I met a girl named Lorelei. All right. Next.
Juliet.
Juliet.
Yeah.
Okay. What else? You got any other cool period names from your sheet there?
Mm-hmm. Lavender. Marina.
The Lavender Dahlia.
There you go.
It's a lavender or dur. There we go. Yeah.
Lavender. Paloma. Marlowe.
Wait,
Marigold.
hang on. You're got gold here. What was the first one?
Marlowe.
Okay.
Paloma.
Paloma.
Paloma. Yep. Tallulah. Luna.
Luna?
Luna.
Yeah. I don't like that one. What else? Anything on your hot list?
Marigold.
Ooh. Marigold. Marigold Dahlia. Lavender Dahlia. Marigold Paloma.
There's Violet, yeah, Dahlia.
Okay. Violet Dahlia. All right.
I think that's a good bit of names.
Okay. Well, then we'll leave it right there for now. Okay, so former porn star, pioneer of something. That's the impetus for the award. From the early 20s. Okay. Oh, from her.
I mean, that's when she started out.
But it may be that it's in the 20s too. Who knows?
Yeah.
First interracial scene, first girl guy film. What would be another cool one?
Yeah, I mean, I want it to be. I kind of really want it to be just something tame. That's why I would say probably the time frame, just because I don't want to make this a vulgar movie.
No, not at all. That's why I thought the time frame was going to be important, so that we could keep the vulgarity out of it and keep it something that would have been considered wildly grotesque back then, but now is like, oh, that's it.
Right.
Maybe she ends up feeling a bit of responsibility for the free fall of perversion that swooped across America with the one act of, girl, guy, or whatever.
Yeah. Although I kind of see her as someone that isn't that doesn't put any judgment on any of it. Like to her, it's all positive, and as long as it's consenting adult type thing, I see her as not even being unabashedly ashamed of any of it.
Okay. So let's put that down on her personality a little bit. Were you typing somewhere else? Sorry.
Nope. Okay. Go ahead.
Why don't you go ahead and add what you just said there? Because
okay.
You captured that perfectly.
Like in her personality.
Yeah, down at the bottom. Well, we say that, but I thought a part of this, at the very least, was that nobody knew about her past. And that her future successes were supposed to be kind of masking that time in her life.
Got it. Yeah. But
that doesn't mean that she can't be just outward like that without knowing.
Right.
Gotcha. I see what you're saying. Okay. May long for a partner. Is she adventuresome? Adventurous?
Yeah, I think I would see that.
If I could spell it.
She is. And we can make her friend, not so much.
Yes. Everything that we do with Judy, she should be, in a lot of respects, a polar opposite.
Mm-hmm.
But there needs to be some things that tie them together as well. And it can't just
have to
be
have some commonality.
Yes.
Besides just being in the same living arrangement.
Yes. And maybe it is something they play. Maybe they play cribbage. Maybe they play, you know what I'm saying? One of those kind of old lady games where what you think of as a traditional old lady game where they sit around and just play the cards or do whatever. Maybe they crochet.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Well, we can write those. Let's see. Where did my so maybe hobbies?
Yeah, let's do a hobbies thing. Cards.
Maybe bingo might be something they do.
Bingo nights.
Bingo nights.
What else?
You know, she might. One thing that she might enjoy is like she might be I don't know what they call them, people that enjoy wine. You know, like a wine connoisseur type.
Oh, okay.
But maybe her friend is a teetotaler. Maybe she's, you know, just so raised maybe Southern Baptist where they just don't even, they think alcohol is a bad thing.
Yeah.
That might be that could be one of their conflicts.
Yeah, sure. I mean, her getting sauced a time or two probably wouldn't kill anything.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with her being as kind of fun-loving and adventurous as what we're kind of portraying her as. I think having some wine would loosen up some of the potential scenes to happen along the way.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Bingo nights, wine lover. What else do they do at those kind of places?
Oh, I'm sure they do trivia. Probably, I know my ex-father-in-law, he says they do a lot of like they have a history group where they go and a bunch of people that are interested in history will have a topic and they'll unravel it. So that might be maybe you know some kind of thing. They could have a book club that they're into maybe.
Right. It should be something that it should turn out that maybe they have 3 or 4 of these things that they just overlapped on, and that was kind of the forging of this unlikely friendship. Especially since we're going to start from the middle, possibly.
Possibly, yeah.
Building that story up and showing, you know, the day that Grace moved in and the day that, you know what I'm saying? That'd be fun.
Yeah. We can pull people back up to speed when we start the beginning, maybe the cars broke down or whatever midway through their trip, and then we can tell that story about how they got there.
Yeah. So they're arguing, going back and forth about all of this stuff. The paramour is sitting in the driver's seat because he's the one driving most of the time, just like with his hands on the wheel, and the slow kind of move in on him as he begins to tell the tale. Who you think is him begins to tell the tale, of what he's seen over the years of these two and everything else. That's fun.
Yeah.
That's totally fun.
Yeah. The more I hear that idea, the more I like it.
Yeah.
Because we can tell a lot of the story. I mean, we can catch people up to things that we need to.
Right.
With that paramour. So.
Yeah.
And then the twist is that, you know, when we reveal the twist, that it's the vehicle that's seeing him telling the story. And it's one of many stories. That's even another layer that would be fun.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. All right. So book club, history club, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. Any other hobbies that we want to talk about or throw on the pile for right now? And obviously more stuff will pop up as the story progresses.
Yeah.
Put some more dashes in here. So what else? What else do we need to know about Judy? Does she have any conditions? Let's do a medical thing.
Her health. Yeah, I kind of we had discussed that maybe this trip is being, she's wanting to do this trip because of her because maybe she's discovered she's got some kind of terminal illness and she wants to have a last hurrah.
Okay. So let's say that Judy now. So
because if they go on this trip together and she doesn't make it to the end, and we have our conservative friend Grace accept the award for her, that could be a fun way to wrap it up too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. So possibly terminally ill. What kind of diseases are we talking about for her? Because it can't be anything degenerative like a Parkinson's or even an Alzheimer's. You know what I mean? You wouldn't degenerate so much. If you were degenerated that much, nobody would let you go in the first place.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to make that trip.
Right.
But it could just be a cancer diagnosis or something that she just hit her out of the blue, and she said, they were like, you need to get your affairs in order kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So let's call it cancer for now.
Cancer for now.
Cancer for now. Because that's really probably the only one that we could look at it and go, that's something that they tell you ahead of time and then you die.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like they're going to say you're going to have a stroke in 3 weeks. Get ready.
Right. Yeah.
So it almost has to be cancer. Unless there's nothing wrong with her and she just dies.
Yep. And that could be it too. That could be the way it happens.
Okay. Well, then let's add that. Heart attack, stroke. What's something else that takes you fast? That's probably the big two.
Yeah, cancer, but something that she wouldn't wake up from. Maybe it would just be a stroke or a heart attack, or that kind of thing.
Right.
Aneurysm.
Yeah. Ooh, aneurysm. That's a good one. Oh, do I know how to spell aneurysm? Do I even want to try to spell aneurysm?
Yeah, just try it. There's 3 N's, I know that.
Man, I don't know if I can do this.
And there's 1 N. You see it?
I can't. I don't even know where to begin. I know I couldn't even begin to spell this damn word.
It spelled it. It autocorrected for me. Where were you typing?
Where were you typing?
Oh, okay. I was way down at the bottom. Here we go.
Oh.
And
yes.
How about that?
That's so much better. Oh, that makes me feel so much better seeing that. I couldn't think of it for the life of me. I wrote speech out the other day, and man, I struggled with that so bad.
Well, that's a tough one because you want to put 2 E's in it, but there's not. There's only one.
Right. I just kept looking and looking and looking and looking. It just wasn't making sense to me for some reason. Maybe I'm the one with Alzheimer's. Okay. So, yeah. Either way works well. Both of them have their moments, obviously. Mm-hmm. Having her die suddenly. I don't know. I don't know. We don't have to decide that for now, but thank God. Yeah. But that's a fun problem to have, because either way, the story is strengthened by it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
So,
there's definitely, we can go either way. And, I kind of think the fact that she knows that she doesn't have much time, but she doesn't let her friend know this might be it might be a moment in the story that we can have her reveal that to her friend, like where they have a real heart to heart.
right. Yeah. Yeah, and that ends up being a really nice moment. It ends up being a real good 5 minutes of film, quite honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's plan around cancer and keep the sudden one off to the side just in case.
Yep.
Okay. What's some more stuff about Judy then that we need to know about her?
Judy then.
Yeah. What's old Judy like? So we got that she left as soon as sister graduated high school. She worked for a phone company as a phone company switch operator and waitress. Later on, phone company stewardess, telemarketer, physician, homeopathic healer. As some ideas that you threw out there, I like that.
Right.
Independent. What's that?
Yeah, I mean, she could have done several things in addition, or maybe just one. Maybe she just went from, the store clerk to the vice president or the, CEO,
Right.
or whatever of some department store that wound up, moving on and having a little small chain that she managed. And,
Okay. So how do you want to add that?
yeah, where is our? Here we go. Yeah, I mean, she could have started, like, her first job could have been as, like, a stock person in a department store,
Right.
where she then, continued to go from stock person to cashier to bookkeeper to, whatever, buyer, purchaser.
When did department stores kind of kick in?
Oh, I think they've been, the dime stores,
Uh-huh.
all kind of turned into department stores.
Right.
So it could be as far back as we want it to go, or whenever.
Right.
I would think it could go from, Woolworth's nickel and dime store, then change. They revamped everything, and she said, "Well, this is the old school. This is the way of the future," and now those stores are these little department stores.
So she became kind of a exec in that space.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that could be somebody who has no formal education in it. She just learned the business from a young age, working her way through all the different jobs in that.
What do you think? So if she's, and again, dude, all I want to do is make sure that we're lining up continuity wise with like the time frames.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just naive. But I mean, that would mean that in the 30s and the 40s that she was doing just some straight men work, which I guess coming out of World War II, that makes a lot of sense, but that would put her at 45 years old.
Put her at 45 years old when?
Well, I mean, if she's doing porn in the 20s, then she had to have been born in like 1903.
Oh, yeah.
If the movie's in the 80s, right?
Right. Maybe she's not. Maybe she wasn't doing it in the 20s. Maybe she was doing it. Right. Because I think we put in her 20s, not the 20s. Maybe she was doing this in the 40s.
Right. But to do it. Okay. So maybe I'm just getting hung up on that. So to do the film in the 80s means that she had to have been born in like 1903 to put her at late 70s, early 80s, right?
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Which means she was doing porn in her 20s, which would put her in the 1920s, right around Prohibition, just after World War I. Maybe her dad was a World War I vet. that ends up making a lot of sense. But then job wise, we're going to have to angle that through stuff that makes sense for the grind. And honestly, back then, entertainment might be a great way to achieve that outside of the other jobs that she did, which maybe that's how she gets kind of roped into some of this stuff early. Like the pretty girl who, you know, wants to go out to this new Hollywood thing they got going on and be in these silent pictures, and boy, was she ever.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? There may be something to that.
Do that, yeah. But even with the even if we don't do it in the 80s, we do it now or 20 years ago. I guess I wouldn't get too. I wouldn't be too hung up on the fact that somebody in their teens could raise a sibling and nobody really bat an eye about it. Like,
right.
I think enough. If the kid was still making it to school and that kind of thing, it could, you know, their teenage sibling could be taking care of running the whole show.
Right. Yeah, maybe.
As long as they're, you know, they come to school with clean clothes on and are fed and don't miss a bunch of school.
And maybe it's an unfair assumption, but I guess my assumption would be that in any of those earlier time frames, except for maybe during World War II, where women really jumped into the workforce, you hardly ever saw it. It was super rare that you ran across women in the workforce for the most part. So
probably not until not till the 50s, I would imagine.
Yeah, they weren't even, I mean, they couldn't even vote just a few years prior, right? So you see what I'm saying, and maybe that's entirely too nitpicky on my side.
Right, and however, if she is a pioneer, maybe she's just a trailblazer, period. Like she was, I guarantee you that we could find women in history who defied like the normal male-dominated workforce.
Absolutely.
Any period that we go back, I think we can find that examples of it. So,
right.
It may not have been the norm, but I'm sure that there's plenty of people we could model it after. We could say, well, there you go. There's this gal that did it. This woman. So.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. There's something interesting about people who have tragic backgrounds, but have this keep it together, almost sort of flamboyance to them.
Mm-hmm.
Like the act of being them is so much more important than the reality of being them.
Yeah.
Everybody has known people like that, and entertainment has a lot of people like that. So seeing, just in my head, seeing her in that sort of role, which is why when you put homeopathic healer, I thought, oh, dude, that's so sweet, because there's at least in old school, like mysticism and that kind of shit, there's a certain act that goes along with all of that, and I think that sort of plays into, in my mind, that type of spinster gal that just hangs around forever, dating around, doing her thing.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yep. Okay. Yeah. And maybe she's such a healer that she can't, like she has to save everybody or heal everybody. And maybe that's part of it, is her being able to meet new people, you know, whatever. Never.
Maybe she starts something where she does like, because I mean, people started doing phone, like star charts and phone type things through the 80s and the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of things that happened later on. All of the mysticism and stuff, and the crystals and metaphysics and all of that started rolling through shortly after the time frame that she would have been doing that. So she could have naturally progressed into that and went on a healing path and journey, and that might be a fun little way to explore.
Yeah.
Do you like the idea of her being kind of on a spiritual thing, or do you think that we keep it over in professional ones still? Oh, I lost you. Hang on, we're having technical difficulties. My internet is unstable. Can you hear me now? There you are.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah. So her journey was more spiritual than it was professional.
Well, it's still professional, but maybe she moved through that world
Instead of the corporate world.
Of doing tarot and doing palms and doing and really made some money at it. Maybe she was super successful at it, and that's what causes her to have that air about her as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she could be flamboyant. She could be like a Miss Cleo type of character.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And, you know, with some, that would be fun.
Yeah.
You know, and especially like, you know, real flamboyant costume outfits that she wears.
Oh yeah, the flowing stuff and all of the chains and the chokers and the dangly earrings and the pouch that has all of the crystals that she carries in her purse and the feather that she breaks out occasionally to hit you with a little white sage if she feels like you're unclean. Or
there you go.
Maybe before she comes in the room, kind of like Ed when we had him for Surreal Estate, comes through and just dust the room down with a little sage real quick. That'd be cool. That'd be fun. All right. Have we written that? Where are we at?
No.
Let's put some of that down. So metaphysics. Tarot, palm reading, auras, is it medium? Is that how you spell medium? What else? Phone readings during 80s, because that could be cool if she had one of those phone reading services and just made a fortune off of people calling in for $2.99 a minute.
Right.
Okay. So we've got some decent information about Our Lady Judy for right now.
Yep.
We've got about 11 minutes left before the show's up or whatever. Is there anything else that we want to add to this tonight?
Let's see.
Or are we going to consider this the Lord's work and move on?
Yeah, I think this is a good start for her. So we know where she came from and where she's at now.
Yeah. It definitely begins to give us an idea of who she is.
Mm-hmm.
It begins to give us an idea of where she's come from. We know that she has a sister. We know that sister had kids and has spawned this great-grandnephew, assuming that he comes into play in any of this. We know she came from...
And this makes it easy to write her opposite grace.
100%. 100%. She's Catholic. She has...
I would make her like Southern Baptist even, because, you know, the Catholics like wine. I want her to be more of a teetotaler and more...
Right. Huh. Okay. Yeah, you're right.
Unless it's the devout. Like, I mean, maybe it's just the Catholics I know.
But then how are we supposed to work in the adrenochrome addiction?
Right.
Wasn't that like a big driver of this story?
Was it what?
The fact that Judy is all skeeved out on adrenochrome and they're going on a cross-country trip to harvest some children?
To Vegas. I think that we're trying to mix this in with some fear and loathing.
That's what it is. My bad. All right, well, dude, that I think is it for today's show.
Yeah.
Not too bad. I think we moved some earth on this one too, man. This is a strong start.
Yeah, once we do the heavy lifting here, then we can really plug in the stories and break down the Save the Cat, the beat sheets that we want to
Right.
try to hit.
And we can always come back and revisit her too as we decide we want to do some more with this.
Mm-hmm.
So then for next week, we will not be doing Grace. Next week, we'll be with Chandrea.
Oh yeah, we're gonna work on Someplace Warm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it'll be us and Chandrea. We'll get the Someplace Warm Celtics out. We'll go through that script. We'll start tightening it up. We'll give her the ability to take over the typing and to put this more in a voice that she's going to be able to command this performance all the better. And man, I think this is the right way to go about it. I think this makes the most sense. It's the most collaborative. It provides the most perspective. I think we're going to be doing some good work here.
Yeah. All right.
Well, sir, if you're good, I'm good.
Yeah. I think we did something.
We did the Lord's work.
We did.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much for turning out. We'll be here next Thursday with Chandrea to work on Someplace Warm. And then Tuesday, we have Fist Deep. Who do we have on Tuesday?
That would be Jeff Goltz.
Jeff Goltz. That's exciting. Because
Yeah,
hopefully we got some good big plans for Jeff Goltz later on in the year. So,
Yep.
All right. Thanks for coming out, everybody. We'll see you next week.
See you next week. See you next Tuesday.
Whoa. Whoa, big guy.